Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations. You have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time. Stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am the hostess of the program. Those of you who've been listening for a while, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome to the show. With me, as always, is Brian and Heno. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Yes, lots to be thankful for this year, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's great stuff. So, speaking of which, how was your Thanksgiving? How was your week been, guys?
My Thanksgiving was rough this year. No, it was most of it was fine, but the night before, for some reason, I was breaking out in hives. I have no clue why.
Oh.
Absolutely no idea why. So, yeah, I had to Benadryl up, and I was in a coma while most people were eating. Not literally a coma. I was just knocked out. Yeah, I was knocked out from Benadryl. And I woke up, and my mom had brought food, back for me. So I woke up, still got to eat everything, but it was, I didn't get to go, spend the day with my family. So it was, yeah. I don't know. It was up and down, but it was weird. Like that was it too. It was just that one time and they were gone. So I don't know if there was some, I just had, I don't know if it was like basically like a contact allergy of something, or maybe something I ate had something in it the night before that just didn't set well with me. No new medicine, no nothing like that, so it wasn't, no clue, just out of nowhere. Actually I had 2 nights. I'm sorry. I had 2 nights where I was like that. And then nothing since. So, yeah. So, but the food was good. That was all right.
That's always positive.
I ate, way too much. But, it's funny. Like, I get brought home a big plate of food, and I'm looking at this going, I'll eat off this for a while, and put it, so I'm just like, I'll just take a little of everything, and I start putting a little bit of everything on my plate, and I realize I still have filled this plate. Like a normal sized dinner plate. And then I eat it and it's just like, oh man, afterwards, cause, it's a lot of carb stuff. It's a lot of heavy casserole-y type foods. And then of course I'm like, well, there's pumpkin pie here. I have to have that as well, which makes no sense because there was no room in my stomach. Like, it could just sit in my throat for a while or something, No, Yeah.
In the tradition of Thanksgiving, stuff yourself like a turkey.
Terrible idea. Yeah. So I did that, and then this week I had to go to my doctor, but my doctor's out for oddly enough, it's a weird story. I don't even know the story, but she's out indefinitely. So they actually, when I called to make the appointment, said we're not sure when she'll be back. So I don't know if she's had to have surgery or something like that. I hope she's okay, but so I had to see a different doctor, which, of course was nerve-wracking because brand new doctor.
Yeah.
But that went okay. He actually, when I'm done with, I have a couple days left here of my antidepressant, but he's raising the dose. And since my insurance won't pay for me to see my psychologist or psychiatrist, he's raising the dose and then having me come back, in a few weeks to measure where I'm at. So, that was fun, but, yeah.
Huh, very cool.
So we'll see how that goes. That'll probably be, next week will be the beginning of me telling that story.
Well, that's good. Right? No, that's awesome that he's looking into your medicine and stuff and making sure that that you're getting what you need.
Yeah, and it's funny, I never even thought about that because the last time I saw my psychiatrist, he was talking about that if things didn't change by the time I came back, that he was going to raise my dose. I never thought to just schedule an appointment with my general practitioner about it.
Yeah.
So lesson to be learned for anybody who listens, like if you or like me, like your insurance, you're out of insurance visits, for your mental health care, you might still be able to go to just your regular doctor and they can look at, like mine, they're in the same building. So I do have that advantage.
Yes.
He immediately could pull up my psychiatrist notes and go, oh yeah, right here. He said he was thinking, it wasn't just me going, oh, hey, how about stronger medicine? And him going, all right. It was,
right.
Him seeing that was kind of looking like it was going to be the game plan anyway. So, yeah. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. That's been my week pretty much.
How are you feeling? Are you like mentally?
Ooh, I just wrecked this microphone. I just punched the mic stand.
I've had enough.
Yeah.
The table.
Yeah. How dare you ask me that question? Yeah. I'm fine, he said in a fit of rage. Yeah.
What was that? Oh, I'm great.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I'm still in a weird funk. It just can't seem to snap out of. It's nothing really new, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But it's just, nothing's changed as far as to make it worse or anything like that. Nothing's happened to me that's kept me in a point. It's the only thing I can think of is because we discussed before, weather can have a significant impact on mood. And it's been so.
Well, I didn't know if the doctor was able to like we were talking about adjust maybe the medicine other than make it stronger or whatever, just to help take the edge off of everything.
Well, that's the hope for going to a stronger dose, is that it'll help more. Because, they usually, they don't want to just go, wow, he's got pretty strong depression, just put you on the strongest dose. They generally, you start low and then you work you step your way up.
Sure.
So, but this is actually a pretty significant step because my dose is being, the milligrams is being, doubled. So.
Oh, good.
And, so
hopefully you'll feel a difference.
Yeah. So we'll see. I hope so. Cause it's,
Is that
go ahead?
Is that a typical thing, like where you've the last couple weeks you kind of just been in like a meh, that it can be just dosage related?
I don't know, honestly. That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's usually not like they don't usually like it's not something they will dial up and down generally because you know life is better or worse type of a thing. They're trying to just find that they're trying to find the dose that works consistently so that you can function, you know. And that's the problem is they haven't been able to find that dose for me yet. Whether it may, who knows, it may not even be this medicine, you know, and we may go down this path for a while and then like the Effexor I was on for, you know, 2 years or something like that. And then after being off of it, I was like, that was not the medicine for me. I shouldn't have been on it that long, you know, so maybe at some point they'll do this or maybe they'll add a second one. My psychologist talked about that.
Really?
Yeah, that they may have to add a second one, you know. Well, I know, like Jen, you've had to take multiples. And, yeah, it's fairly common, from what I understand. It's just, they try one, and then if one doesn't work, then they, you know, cause, you know, there is a limit. There is a dosage limit, that's safe, or, you know, on these. So, that's the other thing is it's like, I'm always afraid when medicines get upped and stuff because I'm always worried about that long term because, you know, I'm 38, but 38's not old, you know, and it's like, I don't want to like sacrifice, you know, I don't want to put myself in a position where my kidneys are absolute garbage in, you know, 15 years or something, you know, so.
You want to have good quality.
Yeah. Exactly.
Quantity doesn't count if you don't have quality.
Right. Well, and that's the other side of it too, is it's like, you know, if things aren't doing what you need them to do now, it's like you could be sacrificing long term and not getting anything in the short term, you know, and that's the worst scenario, you know. So
right, there's always those options.
Yeah.
But I think you're that's going more towards worst case.
I know, that's why I said that's worst case in it. Yeah. But you have to try, you know. Yeah.
Always gotta try.
Yeah. So that's it for me. Yeah.
So, all right. So, Hanno, how are you doing?
I was, you know, traveling.
Nice. Got your hobo back on. You're good.
Yeah, a lot of traveling. So, yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving. We had less people. Last year was like, I don't know, 30 to 35.
Oh boy.
Woo.
I mean, it was just ridiculous. Yeah. So it's, my brother-in-law has half brothers and sisters now. And so they've been coming to the house plus family, plus friends. And, there was seriously hoof and mouth disease going around.
Really?
The kids. Yes. And I thought it was kind of funny, and I brought it up to Neil because I stopped and went by Neil and on Lisa's Neil's parents' house. I saw them, and they and Neil confirmed that he'd heard something about hoof and mouth disease in Sonoma County, which is just weird. Yeah, so I don't know.
Wow.
At any rate, it was like sick kids, and you know, my dad's still not really doing well. He really doesn't get dressed much or leave the house. So, and then it turns out my brother-in-law Mark, his old friend Michael, who he does the whole Thanksgiving dinner with, they do all the preparation. He just moved to Texas.
Oh, wow.
Like out of the blue, Mark found out that they're in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Like after everything had happened. You know,
wow.
and then once I heard the story, I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Cause at first it was shocking. It's like, this is your oldest friend in the world and calls, you know, and you call them and say, hey, so, you know, what's going on for, you know, Thanksgiving? Oh yeah, we won't be there. We're in Texas. Like we bought a house.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's an actual backstory to it that was relevant, but it was one of those things where, you know, you could just, they'd been wanting to leave they literally lived in San Francisco. They both worked for city type of departments, and it's like things just lined up, and it's like, okay, it's time to go. And so, but at any rate, it ended up being my, you know, Sharon and myself and, Mark and Elise and my sister and, you know, my nephews. And then a kind of a friend of the family and their kids. So it was whatever total, less than 15 of us, if that. I mean, I guess, yeah. So it was perfect. It was nice and small and mellow, and we had a great time. And Sharon and I actually managed to do some relaxing. It wasn't all like, I tend to not, even though I'm home and I'd like to go see people. And Sharon completely said, hey, if you want to go see some people, go see people. I try not to do it just so it doesn't turn into a madhouse, like me rushing around everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, the people that we did go visit were like, we were dropping off some wedding invitations to neighbors and that kind of stuff. So it was great. But then my parents had their 50th wedding anniversary on on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
So that was huge.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, which is my parents got married on my dad's birthday, so he would never forget their anniversary. So we went to this restaurant last night. It was one of those places where you choose either a 3-course or a 4-course meal. You have 4 different categories. The total items are maybe, I don't know, 15 items total, 12 to 15 items total. Mm. And the price for the 3-course meal is $78. And the price for the 4-course meal is, it was $79 and $89.
Oof.
And now granted, and they were like that total super high end little tasting, platters, but there was plenty of food. It wasn't like they were skimping on you, kind of thing. But yeah, when I sat down, I was like, oh, okay. Like the menu isn't, it's a piece of wood, like a real nice piece of wood with a piece, where they put a paper on top of it for the night. I mean, like I walked in, my mom asked me to fix her faucet, at some point. And so I was literally doing that, fixing it, and I just didn't have time to take a shower. So I showed up. I'm in a ball cap and a t-shirt. This is the kind of place where you wear a coat.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you just do. You don't necessarily have to have a collared shirt, but you should be wearing a collared shirt.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just felt like a doofus. I was like, I knew it was going to be nice, but I had no idea it was going to be like that nice.
Right.
Oh.
But it was great. And it was, my dad, it was kind of bittersweet because, my dad really hasn't been out of the house much other than for doctor's appointments. So it was good for him to get dressed, get out of the house, but it was weird to see him. I mean, he's using a walker, and it's not like he's begrudgingly using it. He's actually very happy to have it. Right. It makes life a lot easier for him to get around with it, but it was tough to see it.
Oh,
it's like,
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
My dad's using a walker.
Yeah.
It was like, a little more reality check.
Definitely.
But on the other hand, like before we left, the bay window got delivered to our house.
Right.
I saw the pictures.
Did you see the picture? Yeah. And looking at it in the garage, I was like, all that anxiety I shared with you guys was gone. Yeah. It's just, it's like, thank you, happiness. But the thing that's weird is, so I'm in Boise and I have no way to get home because I don't have a truck because I sold my truck last week.
Right. So
and
first of all, congrats on selling the truck, but how are you getting home?
That's like when it was wild. It's like a girl walked up to buy my truck.
Nice.
It was the last thing I expected, and it was super cool because it was like, this is why you haven't been basically a pain like everybody else that's texted me. It's like she knows what she wants, she knows what she needs, she knows what she can do with it, and she's ready. And I was like, okay, I'm not, but you have cash, so
yeah, right. Well, that's what we were talking about last week. Remember, you were like, "What I want is someone who in those exact qualities." So
yeah, and it was, from the text messaging, the person was exactly who I thought the person I wanted to sell my truck to. Mm-hmm. And then I realized why she was a bit pushy is because she actually wanted to get a vehicle to Oregon for Thanksgiving and bring another vehicle back with it, tow it. So, and I'm glad so in reality, I didn't even need to do the work I did on my car. Like if I could have sold it to her completely as is and she would have had the work done, but I happened to have started it, and that's all there was to it. It's like I was doing the work I was doing, and that's that. So, I could have saved myself a few $100, but whatever. I felt good that when she drove off, that she could drive to Oregon, and everything was functioning.
Yeah.
As it should. So, cause that's, it's always, it's just how I am. It's like, if I sell something to someone, I want them to be happy with it. I don't want them to get screwed.
Sure. Yeah.
Even though it's buyer beware, and that's just the way it is, but that's not how I like to operate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
I'm the same way. Yep.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, what was great was, having this time, it's funny. I was telling you guys earlier how quiet it is to be in the hotel room here, is because Sharon and I have been around each other with the dogs for the last 5 days straight. Mm-hmm. There's no time that we are not with each other, pretty much.
Right.
Unless she was taking a nap, and I was working on the faucet, and it was strange to just suddenly not have that constant clamor and everything in the background. But what was great about it is it allowed us to talk about, we really talked about, our plans with what we're doing with this vehicle and blah, 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 and what we're buying. And, because I've shared about how it's been, a lot of this has brought us together as far as, we're going to buy a car together and just new experiences with relationships. Well, in the middle of this whole process, Sharon finally said, you know what? I'm going to buy a less expensive car, and I want to buy it myself, and I want to be able to afford the payments by myself, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no problem.
Yeah.
I will, because that was the original agreement was I was going to buy her car off of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to write her a check for what her car is worth, and she can do the rest of it on her own. And it turns out she'd even changed what kind of car she wanted, and there's one here in Boise. So she's going to come back on Tuesday night, pick me up, and probably go buy a car.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for her.
So you're just hanging in Boise until then?
So I've got 2 days of, class again, and, the thing, like before. Okay. But the one thing that's relevant that goes back to our last podcast is I've really been taking care of business again. Yeah, it was, I just want to say thank you, Brian, for, I basically, our last podcast was me kind of just, what I don't even want to call it, stream of consciousness, therapy in a way, like it was very cathartic in its own way, because it was me being in a place where it was time for action, but I necessarily wasn't 100% convinced that I was there yet for it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just happened.
Well, you had to process it. You had to process through it.
Yeah. It was like literally one of those, I woke up the next morning and got to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing I was going to say, isn't it amazing just like 2 weeks ago how stressed out you were about the window, the car, all that? It's just amazing how, so many people think if it doesn't happen now, then blah. And it's like, it's been 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever it's been. It's when now that you're kind of out of that and you look back and you go, man, it's like, I can deal with 2 or 3 weeks of whatever, it stinks, but you can deal with this. This is where not letting things become end of world problems or, catastrophizing things. That's why that's so important, because like this, Henno was worried about it. It was putting him in a bad way, whatever, but it's like just a couple weeks later. Now I know everything doesn't work out that quick, but just boom, this quick, you've got the window in your garage and the vehicle sold, and now you're moving on with the plans you had anyway. Everything's lining right back up,
And the reality was I needed an attitude adjustment within myself.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it. And I did need to make some changes to what I did. And I was reminded of that part of adulting, as much as I don't like it, is actually, for lack of a better term, putting boot to ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels good. It just feels good to do it. So I made an appointment with doctors that I wanted to make. I scheduled some other things. The cool thing was I took apart an entire transfer case of a 4-wheel drive truck, and I actually put it back in, and everything worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that motorcycle bits and pieces in the garage is very likely to get put back together now.
That's awesome.
That's good, yeah.
You know, like those kind of things. And it reminded me, it was a good reminder that I am actually here when I'm taking care of business.
Yeah.
I feel there's a paradox in that I've always identified with my recovery program, and it's the idea of by I'm not giving up my freedom, I'm actually getting more freedom, but it's the difference between feeling internally free versus time-wise free.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. Doing the things I need to do takes time. However, it makes me feel free inside because I've shared this so many times on here. When I don't do things, they take up space in my head somewhere back there.
Exactly.
You know, it's clutter. All those unfinished business items, whether they're personal things, emotional things, just physical things, when I don't address them, they eventually create clutter, and I am renting space. I'm basically renting a garbage storage space.
Well, yeah, because I mean, seriously, like we've talked countless times on here about how we're like dreading doing 5 or 10 or 15-minute long tasks, and it's funny how we will dread those for weeks and weeks instead of just doing it. It's like we spend more time on the dread of the project than the actual project, and it's like if we just got could just get those out of the way, you free up so much more time in your, you can worry about other things. And
another aspect of it is it's all about choices, and not making a choice is still making a choice, and there's still going to be ramifications for that action. Mm-hmm. So, in this case, excuse me, you chose not to do something about it, and you chose to let things, pile up, and the consequence was you were feeling overloaded. And by taking back your choices and actually making conscious effort of deciding to do things, you're taking back all of your freedom that you were giving up and just letting everybody else and everything else in the world control you. You're like, no, I'm going to control me. Yep. I'm going to control what I'm going to do, and taking all of that back. And that makes a huge difference.
It really is just such a strange, paradox to me. And it comes from fear. It comes from, for me, it's a lifetime of fears of commitment and fears of I mean, that's a reason why I had problems with relationships and this and that, and I didn't, the whole everything having to do with whether I wanted to have children or not, or blah, that was taking away, that's limiting me, but it wasn't. It really, it always turns out it's not. And it's a great reminder. And it's also a great reminder that this is not, there is no finish line here.
Yeah.
I am always in the race, and, and sometimes I just need I need the reminder of the race goes on.
Yeah. And,
you're never finished. You don't graduate.
And the attitude adjustment that you referred to a little while ago and what you just said are two of the main reasons why I think I benefited so much from therapy. Because every time I drifted out of my lane, the therapist would kind of help me, realize that I had drifted out of the lane and try to help me back into the right lane, that kind of a thing. And, and again, when you start going, you start putting worry in front of you and whatnot. And then, like I talked before, how she was like, well, let's walk all the way through this. And then you're like, wow, that's not such a big deal. And, that just someone, whether it's a therapist or a friend or whatever, it's nice sometimes to get people to kind of help you reframe your situation, And because
take off the rumple strips, shall we say?
Yeah, because you really get, you really get blinded by the forest, and
Yeah.
You can't see anything past it. So it's nice when somebody else is kind of like, hey, you know, like this is, you know, you're okay. You're doing great, you know? So, yeah.
It does. It makes a huge difference. And then, so, Hannah, what are you going to do? So you're getting Sharon's car and she's getting a new car on Tuesday. So you will have a vehicle Tuesday.
Yeah, hopefully I will. And the other thing I'm going to do is I am going to continue taking public transportation to work as much as I can. That has also felt really good because that's another thing that we feel limited about. Like, oh, our cars give us freedom. And it's like, you know, I have a different type of freedom also taking the bus.
Yeah.
I really do.
Sure.
And I've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic to read a book. And the day that, you know, Sharon and I, she had the car in the shop, and so we both took the bus home together. And you know, she sent me a text message, you know, oh, I'm grabbing the 440 bus. And I'm like, I'll save you a seat 'cause I was already on it. And you know what? That freaking photo blew up on Facebook. It's amazing how many likes we have on it. And it was really cool, you know. It's like,
Do you know why? It's because it sounds like something two high school kids would do. That's why. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is
and it feels it's the thing that we all want to do.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it really is to share those little special moments.
Right.
Those are the highlights of life, you know?
Yeah, and it actually got it was things are a little rough in the Sharon job department right now, and it's putting a lot of stress on her. Mm-hmm. But what I love to see is that she's thinking forward, and like as a result of the amount of traction from that campaign, she thought about, wow, you know what? This could be a great opportunity for me to create a social networking, like a freelance position for herself or start her own business. Like I could start a campaign for mountain rides, buses, selfie yourself, you know, taking public transportation, and have all of her coworkers do it, you know, like once a week, you know, take a selfie on the bus. And it got her thinking of like, you know, there's a lot of businesses out there that won't have somebody help promote them via social networks.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they're just they don't like dealing with it. Right.
Yep.
And so it's really I'm feeling very, you know, it was determined and now it's totally inspired.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So,
yeah, that's great.
So thank you to the Crazy Life and everybody out there.
Lots of positivity. I love it.
Yeah.
So, well, my week, Thanksgiving, was very nice. We went to my uncle's house, which is what we normally do, which is a very small house. And this year we had so many people, we had to do a second table, which we've been 15 years. It was awesome to see that many people. Yeah. And they have different cousins and stuff in from out of town. And you know, my cousins, some of my cousins I'm really, really close with, and two of them were there. And I got extra strong hugs. And that just means the world to me when that happens. And it's just one of those random things that happens, but I just love a good strong hug that, you know, just it tells you that that person just really wants to hug you type of a hug.
Right.
You know? It just makes you feel so good. And I had 2 drinks, which I'm usually quite the heavy drinker when it comes to family functions, but I only had 2 drinks. And I was thrilled with 2 drinks. I was happy with 2 drinks. I didn't want any more. I had a beer before dinner and a glass of wine with dinner. And I didn't want anything else. And, which is a strange thing for me, but I was very happy to feel that way. And, I think it's another step towards me feeling more comfortable in my skin, feeling more comfortable in social settings. I had another family function on Saturday, so it was, you know, and I worked on Friday and my brother was in town and he stayed with me, and then I had a family function on Saturday, and that last family function, I think it was a little too much. So it really, Saturday, my brother had left right from the family function. So I was home by myself because my husband's out hunting this weekend. So I think I needed that quiet time because it was just, that was a little bit too much. I could feel my nerves getting frayed. I could feel myself getting more sensitive, more touchy, just more in my own space, in my own head, starting to pick myself apart. And I was able to kind of mitigate that and kind of get by myself. And I've been working on candy, so I've been keeping myself busy so that I'm not obsessing and just kind of trying to be happy in my own space. Been a little tough because without having my husband home here, it's weird because the house is really quiet, kind of like what you were talking about, Hannah, where it's like just the little stuff, the little like movements of just having somebody else around. When you're just by yourself, it's just that
it's different.
Absolutely, absolutely quiet. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, just feels different. Not bad, different, just different. So that's taking a little bit getting used to, but overall, it was a very, very positive holiday, which is good. And I'm looking forward to Christmas. And I know it's going to be a very busy one, which is going to make it a little tougher. But hopefully I can get through and really kind of rely on my medicine versus relying on alcohol to kind of get me through it.
Right.
So always steps in positive, and you always want to take steps in the right directions. Sometimes you can't, but when you can, it's always a good thing.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
cool.
Today, we're kind of touched on it already, but today I wanted to talk about something. I'm going to coin the term Healthitude. And I've got a couple articles about how attitude can actually make you healthier. So, like you were saying, Hannah, kind of putting a foot to your behind, and like you mentioned, Brian, all about the attitude and changing attitudes. So the first one is 10 reasons why gratitude is healthy. Now this one, it's very teen-based, but I think it honestly can apply for everyone. It's good for teens' mental health. Well, I think we've talked about before on here how gratitude and gratitude lists are definitely a huge factor in helping stay happy and keeping a positive outlook, even if it does make you feel like a smiley emoji sometimes, feeling fake, but sometimes you just gotta have to fake a positive outlook until you get it.
Yeah.
Mm. So, according to a study presented at the annual meeting of the American Psychological Association this year, grateful teens are happier. Research also found that teens who are grateful are more well-behaved at school, more hopeful than their less grateful peers. More gratitude may be precisely what society needs to raise a generation that's ready to make a difference in the world. This is actually kind of, if you take out school and you replace that with work, I'm starting to see there's somebody at work right now that's very, very negative, and it's really starting to affect his work and the work of others around him.
Yeah, because
and it's amazing what difference that makes.
Yeah, because it's essentially a toxic relationship.
Yeah. It really is. And it's not beneficial for anyone. Mm-mm. And granted, sometimes it's funny. We all enjoy a good sarcastic quip now and then. Or quip now and then. But it's got to be a now and then thing. Because if you start putting those sarcastic comments together back to back to back to back, all of a sudden you're bringing down your mood and everyone's mood around you.
Yep. Then they become the person nobody... Then they become the person nobody wants to spend any time around with. They don't want to work on projects with them. They don't even want to eat lunch with them because they don't want that energy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes the person worse. It's like this downward spiral that they start on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just...
Well, what it ends up doing is it adds legitimacy to their negativity. Because they go, well, all the people I work with are jerks, and they won't even talk to me. Like, I'm nice, but they won't even talk to me. And they don't realize that from the outer perspective that everyone's like, yeah, I don't want to talk to them because it's all they do is, you know, complain and gripe, and instead of trying to do something about it, they just make excuses, and you know.
It makes me kind of, whenever I see stuff like that, I always kind of turn it in on myself and say, am I doing these things? Do I need a check? And sometimes I do, sometimes I'm not. You know, sometimes I'm okay. But in this case, you know, it made me really kind of re-examine my attitude and how I was looking at things. And, and it helped to remind me that there's some work still to be done there.
Yeah.
You know, that I could definitely do some work there. And it also brought to mind how limiting that is to you and others around you. Because if you're around someone who's super, super negative, you don't want to bring up an idea to them. You know? Mm-hmm. You don't want to be around them when you are positive about something, and you don't want to open up, and you're really shutting down everyone around you when you're negative like that.
Yeah.
So it's just... be positive, people. It's a good thing. Well, another thing it does is it boosts wellness. Wait a minute. It boosts well-being. I knew it didn't sound right. So well-being, being constantly mindful of all the things you have to be thankful for can boost your well-being. In a series of experiments detailed in 2003, daily exercise practices and listing of all things that you're thankful for are linked with a brighter outlook on life and a greater sense of positivity. The advantages are most pronounced when compared with the focus of hassles or complaints, yet are still apparent in comparison with simply reflecting on the major events in one's life, on ways in which one believes one is better off than comparison with others or the control group. So this kind of talks a little bit more towards the grateful lists, gratitude lists that the show has talked about on a few different occasions. I mean, it helps. I honestly think this kind of goes back to also our conversations on perspective, on keeping things in perspective and helping yourself to understand, like what you were pointing out, things dramatically changed, and a good part of that, from Henno's perspective, was he helped change his attitude.
Yeah.
So, as I talk about you in third person, Henno.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, think about it this way. The first week he brought it to us, he was stressed and it was frustrating. The second week, he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this, and when things happen, blah, blah, blah. And then this week, we actually saw the progression, you know, of the attitude change paying off. And again,
processing through.
Yeah, everything won't work out that clean in life, but it's a small window of how it can. You know, whereas if he had stayed negative, maybe he still sells the truck or whatever, you know, who knows, but maybe he takes longer to work on it to where when someone comes to buy it that he doesn't have it finished, or, you know, and they need, like she needed it kind of in a time frame. Well, maybe if he had been negative and not bothered to do the, you know, finish the work, you know, maybe she doesn't want it then, or, you know, who knows how that negativity could have, I can't think of the word now, manifested itself into, you know, reality. And if you're going to dice roll on one, why not dice roll that you move the right way? You know?
Yeah.
We talked about before, you know, how both you guys have both been kind of sarcastic and negative in the past, especially when it comes time, when dealing with people like myself who have a tendency to go more towards the positive than the negative, how you would almost laugh. And it's like how naive and how basic and simple that can be. It's like, don't you see the big picture? Don't you know all this stuff? Yeah. And you automatically assume the person doesn't, because how could they possibly be this positive and happy given the state of affairs? And it's interesting when you read these things, because I think that just helps to underline the fact that it just doesn't pay to get too negative. And if you're surrounding yourself with things that make you negative and make you feel bad, such as news, such as, the state of affairs on TV and in life, in the world around us, yes, we need to be aware of it, but you also have to make sure that it doesn't negatively interfere with you having a positive and strong health and strong life. So it's a balance there, but definitely it's something to work at and to keep that perspective. Now, another one here has been linked with better grades. Now, again, I think if we substitute work and promotions and benefits and positive benefits at work, I think this definitely can still relate. It says grateful high schoolers have higher GPAs as well as better social interaction and satisfaction with life. Researchers also found that grateful teens were less depressed or envious. I do see when I'm positive and in a positive mood, I don't really care as much about what's going on with others in a competitive or jealousy manner.
Well, and it makes sense because, like it said, with like looking at by being happy and paying attention to what you're grateful for, you're not looking at what you don't have. You're looking at what you do have. And that's the shift, is when you're negative, you tend to look more at what you don't have. And in the same context, it's what others have. This person got promoted and I didn't. And, instead of just saying, hey, you know what? I'm like you did with a few weeks ago when you were talking about the job, how you were like, you know what? I'm still getting paid well for the position I'm doing. I'm close to where I live. when you shift that from the, well, so-and-so got promoted or so-and-so gets hired. When you shifted that back to you and, well, let's look at what's good about where I am. And hey, you know what? There's a lot that's really good. Then you quit worrying about the rest of it, so it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It also says in the article that you will be a better friend, which makes sense because you're not worrying about what you don't have and all this other stuff. So you can actually focus on listening and being a good friend to somebody. It helps you sleep better because, again, you're not worrying about things, and Hannah, as like you were saying, that you don't have as much piling up in the back of your mind in worrying about the to-dos and stuff.
Yeah, because that's talk about something that really builds up in our brains is all of those wish I hads.
Oh man, no doubt.
Should have done's, versus finding the things that you. These are part of like daily meditations and reminders I need to hear on a regular basis, which is that to look at what you have right in front of you, look at the benefits of what you do right now versus how something should be or could be or what would be better. And that's something that I'm learning right now and I'm becoming okay with is having less.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, who are the people, and I say this all the time, who is the person that I am most impressed with? Who are the people that I want to be most like? The humble rock star.
Yeah.
The athlete that just leaves it on the field. The guy that doesn't throw. Those are people that I want to be around because they've got some quality in them that I'm like, man, I want that.
Yeah.
They seem perfectly content in their own skin in and who they are and what they have. And it's gotta just translate into your health.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean, it says right here, it benefits the heart.
Yeah. Well,
so
sure.
In 1995, we studied American Journal of Cardiology. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, less stress.
So the positive emotions would change the heart rate variability. There you go.
Yep. Also, real quick, the would-have, should-have, could-haves are on the list of distorted thinking worksheets. I'm just bringing that up again.
Definitely.
What was that, Jen?
But, yeah. They're saying hypertension, patients with congestive heart failure and coronary artery disease and hypertension all benefit from positive thinking and gratitude lists.
Sure.
Because it adjusts their heart rate.
Yep. Makes sense. Plus, not worrying about the same stuff and letting the little stuff really pile up on you. That's less stress in the long run. And, anything you can do to reduce your stress level is, generally beneficial for your mind and your heart, if nothing else, Yep.
And it's been linked with a better immune system. Mm-hmm. You don't get sick as much. And extreme losses don't affect you as negatively. Like you get sad and you get down, but you don't get as sad or as down for as long, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause the more negative you are, the more likely you are to catastrophize things, so a small loss becomes the greatest loss, and
yeah.
So makes sense.
So an article in here at the bottom, I'm thinking we may have to discuss this in the following week, but it says how to get drunk the healthy way this holiday season. It was at the bottom of that article. I was like, woo, this one might be a good read.
That's different.
Oh, and the article is on the Huffington Post.
Okay.
Just so you guys know.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that in a minute. The article we were just talking about was 10 reasons why gratitude is healthy via the Huffington Post. Yeah. Now,
and Jen, if you send that to me, we'll have that in the show notes too. I said if you send that to me, it'll be in the show notes.
You got it. Another article here is from AARP. So we're going from teenagers to older folks.
Sure.
Feel happier to be healthier. And this actually kind of just talks about the same thing, that being happier will relieve stress, relieve pain, helps people to live longer, all of that good stuff. Now, to help keep happier, they're suggesting adopt an animal.
Sure.
And we've talked a lot about having an animal, making an animal part of your support system is a huge thing to help with positive attitude as well as your health. And music. I know you and Henno both have talked a lot about music before, and Henno, we know music's a huge part of your life.
Yeah, actually, last week it was actually we talked music for longer than I think Henno and I did the show last week. So yeah, it's always been, and I think most people it's maybe the easiest therapy for people to identify with. Meditation takes some training. You have to work your way into it. Music, you don't have to. You just listen to music you like. That's all it takes. Just listen to whatever it is that you like, and it will, it shows signs of improving mood, or whatever. Now, it can also have the adverse effect if certain songs depress you or whatever, but it's, pick songs that you like for, good reasons. And, like I said, it's maybe the easiest therapy people can go through with, because you don't have to seek out anyone. You don't have to ask for help. All you have to do is just put on some music, and that's for a lot of people, that'll drastically improve their mood. That's why it's great when some places where you work, where people can listen to music or podcasts or whatever, things that can improve their mood while they're working. Like when I work with my brother, in the past, I would listen to music while I was basically doing, data entry on eBay listings or whatever, and it helps just kind of keep me in a frame of mind and not focus on how mind numbing what I was doing was,
Right. Yeah, music's huge. Another big one to boost your mood and to boost your health. Laughter.
Yeah.
Put on salty language, put on your favorite podcasts and laugh, or stand up, use your Netflix. Download the comedy shows that make you laugh.
Yeah.
Listen to these comedians, and it will lengthen your life. It's been proven, a few different studies have proven that it makes your life, your heart rate goes down. It just makes you happier, more positive, and it just increases so many good things, that laughter. Mm-hmm. So don't discount laughter. And getting back to nature, and enjoy nature, being quiet and listening to that around you and really connecting and taking a deep breath and connecting with the world around you.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference in your health.
Well, and you can take a step and even put a little bit of therapy / meditation into that as well. Like even if you're just walking around a park and you hear birds chirping, it's like picture that bird and picture it flying around and making that noise, and or the wind blowing and moving the trees, and it's kind of a way to just center center what you're doing on something that's not work or family stress or money or whatever it is that's just kind of it's very similar to, I can't think, what is it, the cognitive behavioral therapy or not, that where they tell you like pay attention to your hands, what things feel like, all that. Just do that while you're walking around, just put your phone away, just focus on what's around you instead of whatever it is that's been stressing you.
Exactly. In fact, the next one on here is try Tai Chi. So
I have always wanted to try that.
I tried saying it, and it's very difficult.
Yeah. Jen can't even say it. I don't know about trying.
I don't know about trying it, but
she wanted to say chai tea the whole time.
I did. Chai tea is so yummy.
Yeah.
This kind of, to try different things. I did go ziplining over the holiday, and with my brother, which I have extreme fear of heights, so it was a big deal for me to do this. And we went to this park that has like obstacle courses in the air, and then part of it is ziplining. Mm-hmm. And I was on like not the lowest level, but the next one up. Mm. So I was about 10 feet, 12 feet above the ground, and I had young Boy Scouts offering me advice, which was so cool on so many levels.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But so humorous.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, I was stuck on an obstacle, and I hear this little voice from below, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Like, yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Another one was giving me pointers. He's like, well, if you don't have a lot of upper body strength, you don't want to do that one. But I think sunflower will be a good one for you to start on, because that one's pretty easy. And so, but yes, it was quite amusing, but it definitely got me out of my comfort zone, got me in touch with nature because it was outside. I hit on a whole bunch of this stuff. And another thing on the list is help yourself by helping others. There you go. Yep. And be of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that can also just be in your attitude, in your, we talked about like at work, having like you said, it's anytime if you're always walking up to somebody and they've always got some sarcastic remark or a little negative comment or whatever, you don't want to go up and talk to them anymore. But those of us that are living in that space, we can make a simple choice of saying, if somebody comes up and asks me for something, they are giving me an opportunity to be of service and to look at it from that standpoint rather than, oh, here comes more work on my lap.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Exactly. It's a great way of looking at it. And, sometimes if you just can't help yourself and you can't figure it out and you struggle, sometimes it's just like a puzzle. You have to walk away and get yourself busy with something else. So just walk away from your own troubles and get busy with helping somebody with theirs.
Yeah.
And maybe by doing that, yours will kind of come to you.
Well,
it's how to figure your.
Yeah, I was going to say, or maybe you'll gain perspective to your own,
So, or maybe you can, yeah.
Because, sometimes,
exactly.
I know that's why there are some people who will go to like soup kitchens or they'll help out at homeless shelters or whatever. And it's because, they want to help, but also you walk out of there and you realize just how good you have it. It allows you to shift your perspective on, instead of, well, my life stinks and go see people who are, women coming out of abusive relationships or, people with no place to sleep tonight or whatever, and it really, when you go home and get into your, super comfortable bed, you start going, maybe I should shut up a little bit. Like my problems are still problems, but, then maybe I should at least look at how good I do have it at times too,
Exactly. Finding that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your bed may be too soft at times and makes your back ache a bit, but better than sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you have a bed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have a bed.
Yeah.
It may not be perfect, but it's a bed.
Right. Not that I'm discounting anyone's problems, but it's, sometimes
absolutely.
Sometimes you do have to realize you're being a crybaby a little bit, and that, even though you do have problems and everyone has the right to gripe about their problems, but, sometimes you do need that perspective of, what, my problems are, I can deal with this, I can face these things. So.
Exactly. Well, that is coming to a close on my articles. Do you guys have anything else you would like to add?
One thing I think is a nice, simple way, and you kind of talked about get outdoors. Being outdoors is a great step to meditation in that you can start to practice some of the ideas of sitting quietly, focusing on breathing while you're out, and you're a lot more comfortable because you still have some sound. You have the wind, you have animals, birds, whatever, maybe the road in the distance, that kind of thing. But it's a great way to practice some of those fundamentals that become meditation, which is just closing your eyes, focusing on your breath going in and out. Doing something that simple just for a minute or two outdoors is a great little stepping stone, and then you can try it indoors, later. Because for a lot of us, it's just so hard to suddenly have that quiet level.
Oh, you're totally right.
Right. And then the other thing is like with, like I brought up the whole thing with work about how you just respond to somebody, little things like that the idea of, if you don't feel like making a gratitude list in the morning and that kind of thing, is just make a commitment to yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm going to commit to myself to try to bring some gratitude into my life and everybody else's life, just a little bit, and see how you feel at the end of the day. How is it looking at the mirror at the end of the day when you made that commitment in the morning? And hey, it might only last for an hour or two. Mm-hmm. But and when it goes away, don't get discouraged. Try it again. Say, okay, let's start over.
Yep.
Let's see how, and let's see for the next hour or the next half day or the whole day. And then, look in the mirror at the end of the day. This is right now I'm finding positivity out of reflecting on getting some positive results.
Yeah.
And as small as they might be, and we can do that from minute to minute in our days. Absolutely. And the health benefits, I just can't help but think that, I know there's a great study that looks into that the amount of nerve endings that we have in our stomachs are the equivalent of the amount of nerve, that we have in our brains, which is why these parts are connected. When we get anxious, we feel it in our gut. It's you fall in love and it's in your gut. All those things are in your gut is because we do have these connections, and things like, heartburn and, indigestion and to a horrible extent, ulcers and those kind of things. Stress is a huge cause of that. Mm-hmm. And I am such a firm believer that a positive attitude is gonna help you feel better. And this is where, Angela, I think, had it spot on. It's like how we process our food within our bodies is got to be, it's affected by the attitude in which we eat.
Yeah.
If we rush that food into us and we're not in a comfortable place, it's like how we assimilate those nutrients and that energy how many times have we just quickly grabbed something and just thrown it down and real quickly afterwards just, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These little ideas of my Buddhist friends, I love when I share a meal with them, because they don't necessarily pray before they eat, but they stop and they're thankful for the nutrients they're about to receive in their own way. And I always love it. There's a mindfulness in them. And that's why I'm very attracted to Buddhism, is because it's the idea of taking mindfulness throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. That's really a cool thought too. Yeah.
I had one other thing too, which was, going back to the work scenario, if you have somebody negative in there, and the last tip in that one article you said, which was be of service to others, which is maybe reach out to that employee or to that coworker and see if, just, hey, is everything okay? Or whatever, because maybe they're behaving that way because things are really rough and, maybe they need, someone to talk to, as I've learned over the last couple of weeks, I've said it on the show before. I said it to Jen. I just want to say it again. You never know when reaching out to somebody might save their life or just make such a huge difference, because maybe then they don't feel alone, and I'll tell you, from somebody who suffers from something that's incredibly isolating, the moments when you don't feel alone are so, I don't know what the word for it is. They're very powerful. When you realize that other people are there for you when you need someone or that, and they understand or whatever, that they want to help you, it makes a huge difference. So, maybe take that as an opportunity, even if the person is just like, I'm fine, and they just right back to whatever. It's like, at least you reached out. Maybe the first time it won't do anything, or maybe it'll kind of stay in their head and then they'll come to you later, or, you never know what planting that seed might do too. So, that's maybe a step to take. Plus then you've made an active attempt to improve your environment.
Right.
On top of it, so you can feel good at that. You at least tried to improve the situation or help somebody. And then, if they refuse, then, that's their choice.
Absolutely.
So I do have one more thing before you get to the end too. This is completely off topic, but, I was watching, and I've mentioned the show on here before, called You're the Worst. And last season they had a few episodes that dealt with one of the characters' depression. And I really felt that they hit it just right on the nose. And this season, there's an episode, I can't remember which. Oh, you know what? I think I have a link to it here. I want to get the name of it right. But they talk about one of the characters on the show is suffering from PTSD, and they kind of skirt they show some stuff from time to time. But there was an episode, the second episode of the season, they show just it's a normal episode or whatever. And then when you watch the third episode of the season, which is called 22, or no, I'm sorry, it was the fourth and the fifth episode. I'm sorry. The fifth episode of the season is it's basically the same show as the previous one, but it's through his perspective instead. And it shows what he deals with and how he sees people receiving him versus how they just receive him. Like there's a little bit on the FX app anyway, there was a little segment afterwards where they talked about the making of the show and how the guy who plays the guy with PTSD, Edgar is the character's name, the guy who plays him actually acted differently for the second episode because of how that character would have processed people's reactions to him. And it goes through his whole day, like he has to meet with a VA and is frustrated, and it just goes through the whole day. And there's other things through the season where they really touch on his PTSD. I just thought it was a really interesting episode. I don't go through the same things he goes through, so I don't know how accurate it is, but it was still a really kind of a fascinating approach instead of just going after, to show both sides of it. Because I believe that's why I complimented them on the depression episode, was it showed the struggle of the person with depression and the struggle of the people who are around her. Like, it shows how difficult their life was, like, trying to help her but not understanding how to help her. So, yeah. And even though the show
it sounds like that show's doing a great job.
Yeah, and even though the show, it's a dark comedy kind of show, and the people in it can be, it's called You're the Worst for a reason. The people in it can just be awful people. Yeah. But it's very interesting. Like, I love the fact that the show really is going after some like legitimate topics. They talk about, I'm not stumping for anything here, but in one of them they talk about how the veteran benefits from smoking weed, but he can't get a medicinal card through the government because federally marijuana is still illegal. So the VA will not ever, unless it becomes legal federally, they will never give medicinal cards to veterans, even though there's things that show that it helps with PTSD. Like they even get into that. So for a comedy to really go after those kind of topics, I think is, it's cool when you can make people laugh and do some good work in there too, kind of make people think a little bit about these things.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
That sounds like a great show.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, with that, anything else, guys?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, if you want to carry on the conversation with us, you can reach me at Twitter, Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. You can also shoot us an email at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. Our website, thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. And I guess that's it for me. How about you, Henno?
Twitter at Ida Henno and Facebook Henno Higer. And I want to throw a shout out for a podcast I've been really enjoying. Is Shrink to Shrinks podcast, and it's our good friend Courtney from the Quadcast. And I finally checked it out this week, and if you enjoy The Crazy Life, I know you'll enjoy some of the way they basically take a movie and you've got two, people with mental health degrees and counseling knowledge, talking about the topics that are in the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, cool.
And I am enjoying it so much because it is, like I said, it relates to things that we talk about, but it's from their professional standpoints, whether it's about relationships or just personal dynamics. individual dynamic, the struggles, that kind of thing. And so it's shrink, then the number 2, and then shrink, and podcast. So I want to throw that out there, and it's a fun listen.
Cool.
Sounds awesome. All right. And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can also see when new shows are posted on the show's Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can check out the other show I'm part of, Salty Language, which is very not safe for work, at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. I've got lost on my list of things here. Oh, the Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/Crazy Life Podcast. And over there, we've got a bunch of, links and stuff to help people, if you need help finding a therapist or, just hotline numbers for, just to talk to somebody, or there's a whole bunch of those kind of resources over there, that as I find new things, I've added a couple to it over the time. So check that out or hit us up and we can, send that list to you. We're also part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So go check those folks out, please. And if you, please, subscribe to our show through iTunes or however it is you get your podcast. And, if you do use iTunes, please, rate and, leave us a rating over there if you would. It helps us get found by people who are searching through the category a little easier. Or if you use Stitcher or one of those other kind of apps, if they have a like or a share or anything like that, please help us out and use that. And then, I also want to remind everybody we're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals, and the show should not be mistaken for or seen as a replacement for therapy. Please don't self-diagnose yourself. If you think you need help, please seek out medical professional to help you. And of course, if you're thinking about suicide in any way, if you're planning it, if you're near the end stage of it, whatever it is, please do not act on it. Please contact someone in your support group or your support system, and, call 911 and tell them you're having a mental health emergency, or, use one, call the suicide hotline number, or there's a number of online resources for people who are feeling, feeling that way, where people will help you. Help's out there. Please don't act on it. And one last thing, again, as I said earlier in the show, is, if you see somebody acting, especially if they're acting outside of their normal realm, if they seem down or they seem really depressed or whatever, it's just reach out to them, because as I said, you never know when somebody might have bad plans, and just you reaching out might stop that, might be enough to save a life. So, especially, this time of year when a lot of people are lonely and they start feeling depressed or whatever, maybe, reach out to somebody. So that's what I got.
Absolutely. That's great thoughts. Yeah, I think it's been a really good show. I've got some thinking I want to do about some of the stuff we talked about, and I definitely think there's some actions I need to start putting into place. So I'm leaving with a lot of stuff to think about, which is always the way I want to leave this show. So with that, everyone, keep breathing, wiggle your toes, and have a great week.